All right, ready to dive in. We're jumping headfirst into the world of Long Island politics. Buckle up, because this story's got it all. Allegations, relationships, and enough twists and turns to rival a political thriller.
It's one of those situations that makes you realize some things never change. Like the whole idea of political favors, the you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours mentality. It's frustrating how much it still goes on.
Oh, absolutely. And in this case, it's not just the what, it's the who that'll really grab your attention.
Yes.
We're talking about a freshman congressman, rumors of an affair, questionable hiring practices, all playing out against the backdrop of a heated re-election campaign. It's a lot to unpack.
You're not kidding. And it underscores this important point about power dynamics, especially in politics. It's a stark reminder of how quickly those lines can blur, particularly when it comes to how elected officials treat their staff.
So let's get into it. We're digging into a recent New York Times article about Representative Anthony Desposito. He represents New York's 4th Congressional District, a big chunk of Long Island, including his own hometown. Now, Desposito, he's deeply rooted in the Nassau County Republican scene, a place known for, well,
Let's just say it's got a bit of a reputation. We're talking about a political machine with a long history of, shall we say, favors being the preferred currency, a place where connections often matter more than, actual qualifications.
exactly. And wouldn't you know it, Desposito's story fits right in. The article focuses on two hires that have everyone talking. First up, we have Tessa Lark, the daughter of Desposito's fiancé. She was hired as a special assistant not long after he took office.
Yeah, and not for chump change either. The article says she pulled in over $21,000 in just about 6 months. Makes you wonder, what exactly was she hired to do?
Especially with those pesky house ethics rules in mind, right?
Yeah.
The ones that are supposed to prevent this exact kind of thing, the whole no hiring spouses or relatives thing, stepchildren included. Now, Desposito and Tessa's mom, they're not officially married, but they live together. He introduces her as his fiancée. It's definitely a gray area.
For sure. And it really makes you question whether he was truly following the spirit of the rule, even if he could technically argue his way around it. That appearance of impropriety, it can be just as damaging as a real violation.
Absolutely. And hold on to your hats, folks, because it gets messier. Enter hire number 2, Devon Foz. The article claims Desposito was having an affair with her while she was working part-time in his district office.
Now, this is where those alarm bells should be going off. We're talking $2,000 a month for a part-time gig, all while Miss Afay has held down a full-time job with the town of Hempstead. This raises serious red flags about a no-show job, which could put Desposito in some serious legal trouble, going way beyond just ethics violations.
And get this, both Tessa Lark and Devon Faze stopped getting paid right around the time Desposito's fiancé found out about the affair with Miss Faze. Talk about convenient timing.
It really does make you wonder if someone was doing some frantic damage control behind the scenes. And this brings us to another big no-no in the House Ethics Rulebook: no sexual relationships between members of Congress and their staff.
So that's potentially 2 strikes already for Desposito. You really have to wonder what he was thinking. Okay, so we've got a congressman, potentially 2 strikes against him when it comes to House ethics, relationships. It seems like something out of a soap opera. Even for Long Island politics, this is a lot. But here's what I find really interesting. This isn't just some random act of bad judgment, is it?
Right, exactly. This whole Desposito thing shines a light on how these political machines work. They've been around forever, operating behind the scenes.
And for those of us who don't speak political machine, can you break it down? The way the article describes it, it's like something out of a gangster movie.
Well, it's not a million miles away from that, honestly. Think about it as like this network of powerful figures where favors are the currency, loyalty is the name of the game, and it's enforced through appointments, contracts, you name it. It's all about who you know, not what you know.
And it seems Desposito was a natural at playing the game, even before he got to Congress. This article dug up some pretty telling examples of his past behavior.
Oh, yeah, there's a whole laundry list. He allegedly used his connections to get his fiancée a job in the town of East Rockaway, helped her son get a sanitation job, even went out of his way to save relatives' jobs from being cut when a Democrat came into office.
So this whole taking care of my own thing, it's not new for him. If everyone knew this was going on, why is it just blowing up now?
Well, these kinds of systems, they thrive on silence. People are afraid to rock the boat, They fear retaliation, like losing their jobs, ruining their reputations. There's a lot at stake.
And then there's the elephant in the room, the re-election campaign. Desposito's running against Democrat Laura Gillen. And this scandal couldn't have come at a worse time for him.
Talk about terrible timing. The article even points out how Desposito's already considered one of the most vulnerable Republicans up for re-election. And right now, when voters are already on edge, this could be the nail in the coffin.
It's a political pressure cooker about to explode. Allegations of misconduct, potential misuse of taxpayer money, and an election just around the corner. But even bigger than all that, this story makes you think about power dynamics in general, especially in the workplace.
Oh, for sure. And the whole #MeToo movement really exposed how vulnerable people can be in these situations. You've got someone in a position of power who might be taking advantage of others. It's a huge issue.
So where does Desposito go from here? Is he facing any real consequences besides bad press?
Well, at this point, no formal charges. But the article mentions that this whole thing could spark a formal ethics investigation by the House of Representatives.
And those House ethics investigations, they don't have a reputation for being a walk in the park.
Let's just say that things move pretty slowly in Congress. But the pressure is on. Ethics experts in the article seem to agree that what Desposito did, even if it wasn't technically against the rules, definitely violates their spirit.
Right. So a potential House ethics investigation,
Right.
a tight re-election race, a media firestorm he can't escape. Not exactly the picture of a successful political career. But here's the thing I keep coming back to. Why should we care? This is just one congressman, one district in Long Island. Why does it matter to the rest of us?
Because it's bigger than Desposito. This is about trust in our elected officials. When we vote, we're putting our faith in them to do what's right, to represent us. When that trust is broken, it hurts our democracy.
It's like that whole saying, right? Sunlight's the best disinfectant, especially in these situations.
You got it.
Yeah.
The more we talk about these things, the less likely they are to get swept under the rug.
That's true. But it's hard not to feel powerless sometimes,
Yeah.
you know? Like, what can we as regular people really do to hold these politicians accountable? It's not like we can, vote them out immediately if they mess up.
Well, you're right. It can definitely feel like an uphill battle. But we're not powerless. Not at all. Our voices matter. And our votes, they matter even more.
Voting, for sure. But on a daily basis, are there things we can do to make a difference?
Absolutely. It starts with being informed, really informed. Don't just read headlines, dig deeper. Support good investigative journalism, the kind that holds those in power accountable. And pay attention to what's happening locally, not just the national stuff.
It's so true what they say. All politics is local. I mean, look at Desposito. Things are just as crazy, maybe even crazier in his district than anything happening in D.C.
Totally. And don't underestimate the power of just asking questions. Contact your representatives, go to those town hall meetings, make your voices heard. They need to know you're paying attention.
It's about being engaged citizens, not just passive observers.
Exactly. And if something seems off, speak up, report it, talk to the media. There are ways to make sure things don't get swept under the rug.
That's a good point. Because if there's one big takeaway from all this, it's that staying silent only protects those who are trying to hide something.
You said it. We have to create a culture where ethical behavior isn't just a hope, it's the expectation.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, it leaves me with a big question. When we're sizing up these politicians, how much weight should we really give to their personal lives?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And a tough one, because there's no easy answer.
I mean, they're only human, right? We all have personal lives, make mistakes.
Of course. But they also hold immense power. Their decisions, even their personal ones, can have huge ripple effects.
Desposito is a perfect example of how those lines between personal and professional can get so blurry in politics.
Exactly. That's why it's crucial we keep having these conversations. Where do we draw the line? What are we willing to tolerate? What kind of behavior do we expect from our elected officials?
Tough questions with no easy answers. But one thing's for sure, this conversation can't end here.
You got that right. Our democracy might just depend on it.
And on that note, that's a wrap on this deep dive into congressional ethics. Big thanks to everyone for joining us.
Turn the dial to the daily news. Turn the dial to the daily news. Turn the dial to the daily news. Bringing voices, headlines, and choose. You turn the dial to the daily news.